The thing about podcasting, though.
Let's have this meta conversation, shall we?
Yes,
Well,
indeed.
I'm not going to say that he's not interesting. I'm not going to say who.
Oh,
but
yes.
unless you have a hook, I think you're kind of screwed.
Okay, like, what's a good hook? Because, like, most podcasts that I listen to don't have a hook.
We don't have as great a hook as I would like. But
like, what's a hook?
The bait is me,
Okay.
right? Like, you
Oh,
got
got
someone
it.
to bring you there.
Oh, okay.
Or else you're just talking into the
Ethos?
darkness. Yeah, like, who the hell's listening? Like, how do they find you?
I ask that
How
every
the
week.
fuck do they find you?
Yeah.
Most podcasters now are just famous people. People
Yeah.
who are known for being
Something else. And then
something
Well, there's
else.
so many of them.
And then people want to listen to them after
Exactly.
they've already established themselves.
That's what I'm saying.
As a public figure or as a professional or.
It's like I used to think that, writing more into my character on Instagram could possibly help build interest into the podcast. But since people don't read anything, as we've well established, like you're hoping that they like the look of someone and then they go, I want to know more about that person. Because nothing you can tell them in script or writing text is going to get them there.
Yeah.
They have to have a genuine interest in whoever the hell's on the screen. So
Well, we do live in an age where many people go on the internet and just profess to be a doctor of something or a professional in some field. So we could just lie. We could just lie our asses off and talk out of
what
our
are we going to be the
asses.
professionals of?
Let's pretend to be ex-assassins.
Ooh.
Yeah. This is a
Have we
podcast where
killed
we talk
anyone
about
interesting?
all of our hit jobs.
Well, it doesn't even mean that we have to have killed someone because we're just ex-assassins. That we could have been in.
We
our,
weren't any good at
Yeah,
it.
we
so
could have
gave
been in
it up.
our rookie. We could have been in our rookie, scouting phase, and just went, this isn't for me. But we were in the field, so
Yeah.
we have some level of expertise.
we
But-
rubbed shoulders with some people who were some real wild characters.
So that
Yeah.
technically you could be all kinds of
Yeah, oh yeah.
anything, right?
I was in a ramp up to get towards this.
Yeah.
And then I didn't. So, but I was
I'm
still.
an ex-bounty hunter.
Yeah.
Really? Oh, yeah. I never got anyone, but
Yeah, I never hunted any bounties, but I was really putting.
I
some
looked at
thought
some
into it.
wild requests, man.
How many people think that they have expertise from that? Like just thinking about doing something, and therefore they have a semblance of
Way
knowledge.
too many.
I've met some people like that for sure.
Sweet.
Yeah.
We watched too many Dogs the Bounty Hunters, and now you're ready to
Yeah,
judge.
you know what I mean. Like I
Yeah.
got a pretty good idea of this. Just
I
like
know what it is.
I really should open a bar. I watched a lot of Bar Rescue.
Oh, yeah. I know what not to do. I
Yeah.
know not to have a pony in the bar.
I got everybody else is failing, but I got
a
this
horse in the bar?
I got this in. This John Taffer guy's been really helping me out over the last while.
So my theory on that guy is it's like Gordon Ramsay dialed up to 11, right? Like they took the template of what Gordon Ramsay was doing with Kitchen Nightmares,
Yeah.
and they just went, let's dial this up a little.
Yeah.
And it was already pretty high, so they had to go. Have you ever seen Spinal Tap? Where
Yeah,
they're
of
like,
course.
this one
But it
goes to 11. Yeah,
I
exactly.
used to own a guitar amp that went to 11 for that reason.
Why not just go to 10 and make
All the
10 a
knobs
little
went to
louder?
11.
This one goes to 11.
Yeah.
It just repeats it.
Yeah.
My favorite part of that movie was the scene with the tiny bread and the giant ham.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want to eat this. I don't even want to be holding this. The ham's flopping out already.
Yep. Those guys
Anyway.
were great.
Yeah. John Taffer is, or was it John Taffer? Jake Taffer?
John.
John.
Yeah,
Okay.
you had it.
Yeah, gotcha. I haven't seen that show in a while.
Yeah. I haven't watched TV in a while.
Well, that used to be the one that you'd leave that on Spike. It would be like
Yeah.
a 9-hour marathon.
Yeah, it's like a marathon. We couldn't afford any other content.
Or like Pawn Stars, on
Yeah, exactly.
history. So it's like, I'm
Okay,
pretty
can
sure
we-
this one was on earlier.
When does history actually have to play history?
Never
That-
anymore.
I've never understood that.
This is upsetting to me.
That's
I've seen the
understandable.
History Channel lately. It's all ghost chasers and garage
Yeah.
hunters.
Sarah
You know,
loves the Ghost
history.
Hunters. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all finding the perfect vacation island home.
Yeah.
What the hell is going on here, boys?
My
I
favorite
like it.
about the Ghost Hunter shows is just how much time they spend like replaying moments and stuff. Where
Yeah.
it's just like, wow, this is the longest 30 seconds I've ever seen.
Well, yeah, because you got to make up time when nothing happens.
Yeah, they go back to this guy
Turns out it wasn't anything.
in his night vision camera reflected back at himself,
Damn it,
breathing
next
heavily
time.
for 30 seconds when he thought he had something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that intense moment when my own delusions almost became real?
I mean, we didn't find anything, but that doesn't mean something wasn't there. What?
So Sarah
exactly
got one
what
of
that
those
means.
EMF detectors or whatever the fuck they're called, and just
Exciting motherfucker.
just for
EMF.
jokes. And we were like, we should go out ghost hunting, and film it for YouTube because there's so many huge ghost hunting YouTube channels.
Is there?
Yeah, that stuff is all moving on to YouTube now, and they get Patreon donations and shit from people who are way more invested in it than they
Did
should
you know
be.
that
Okay.
every wire in every wall in every building is emitting EMF? Mm-hmm. These
Yeah.
lights emitting EMF.
It's just so when I watch
I think
this
we
stuff
are.
with her.
Very low.
But I mean, a
amounts.
little.
But compared to the wires running in the wall,
What if I'm putting off a lot, Where I am
I'm
a
always
wire.
just appreciating the game of it now, though.
Yeah.
Oh wow, this is you can tell the good ones from the bad ones, and not that there's anything happening, but the setup, because some people really do a bad job of making it a show out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where some people they really know how to get you going.
Whereas some people are legitimately just filming themselves while actually hunting for ghosts. Some people are making a TV show. There's two different camps here, I imagine.
problem is I'm do they believe in what they're doing, or do some of them not? Because I feel like some of them do believe in it.
Yes, of
I
course.
bet the better ones
It's like
all
any
know it's
religion.
horseshit and write some dialogue to account for that. You know?
I mean, I could see it both ways. You know what I mean? Because it's just you kind of have to have the belief to get into it. You know what I mean? But
On
I
some
but I
level.
think you'd be thinking you're really gonna find something for a while, and then after a long time of never finding anything ever, I think then you might have to be
for Bigfoot. He's out there.
well, but then you get those guys where it's they believe in it so much that they fake it. You know
See,
what I mean?
but Bigfoot to me is always if Rick was out in the woods, right, and he fell in some dirt.
Yeah, yeah, and some leaves and such.
That's Bigfoot.
There he is.
Right, it's anything and everything.
Yep.
Plus, I
Just a
legitimately
rather
believe-
large mammal.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's looking a little furry. Right. Bigfoot.
I mean, I'm not opposed to Bigfoot being a thing, but I doubt it's here now.
Okay, new podcast spin.
Okay.
What if we created our own film, our own show of sorts, where we first go out and we film ourselves pretending to be Bigfoot in our costumes near people camping or hiking.
I just would
And
be worried about
then-
getting shot.
And then,
I'm not even kidding.
true.
Because I feel like they'd all be like, there he is.
That's what we have
Bigfoot,
extra.
yeah.
That's why we have extra people, bear bangers, and flare guns. If we see a gun come, things get protective.
I hope so.
so half of our show is filming us going near tourists with our Bigfoot outfit, and then the other half of the show is us coming back 2 hours later as Bigfoot hunters and chasers.
He was just here.
and going up and talking to people who have just seen Bigfoot, and then running off searching for.
I feel like something like this would have worked better in the 90s.
And then Ashton Kutcher comes out and it's like, we punked you.
yeah, it's like a really old school reality TV show kind of thing.
I think it still works.
We
but
don't have the
it only works
attention
on-
span anymore.
Yeah, I
you'd have
guess.
to cut the editing would have to be lightning
Yeah,
fast.
30 minutes is a long idea.
Yeah, well, if you're trying to so it's not a long idea if you're building a plot, but when you're doing one joke, people just want that slapstick get you going nonstop these
They
days.
want it in a TikTok pace.
Have you seen that TikTok pace where it's just huh, 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 huh. It's almost like epileptic.
Yeah.
It's like a strobe light. Humor. It's just I need a little bit of setup. I'm not geared for this. But that's where we're at now as a society. It's got to be nonstop. Before you can even process why you're laughing, you're on to the next thing. You're on
I
to the
think
next
something's
thing.
got to break with our relationship to that kind of media.
It's pathetic.
I don't see it holding. I don't get it whatsoever.
I don't find it funny.
yeah,
I
I-
legitimately do not find that stuff funny.
I don't
Welcome
think it's
back to
gonna
Old
hold.
Men Talking.
Yeah.
It's not for us, guys.
Remember when you
Just
showed me
isn't.
that Ryan Long or whatever his name
Yeah.
is? That was a little better because it was
Yeah.
they were telling a long joke, but there were funny moments along the way.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like a 3-minute skit about a topic. But what I'm talking about with the TikToks is it's there's no topic. It's
yeah.
just
It's just humor.
humor.
Yeah, but that's
over and over.
That's I mean, kids do that kind of shit.
There's no point to any of it though. It doesn't come to a point.
Does it have to?
For me, it So I liked like Frasier when I was growing up. I like Seinfeld. Like I like the long build to a point where it's like everything has come together in this horrible conclusion.
Yeah.
And it's like there's this beautiful irony at the end where you're thinking back over all the steps it took to get to this point.
Yeah.
And then you have George Costanza holding a rye bread in the bathroom on a fishing rod. You know what I mean? Like, and he turns around and his wife's parents see him, and it's just this great build-up moment where the whole episode was leading to this completely absurd moment with him and the fucking rye bread.
Yeah.
I love stuff like that. Like, I love the big setup. We don't have time for the big setup anymore. If you take the time and you put things in place and you're like building up layers to a joke, by the end of it, someone's asleep, it seems like.
Well, have you watched like kids' cartoons?
Which ones?
I mean,
new
like-
ones?
I've watched many, yes.
Like a lot of them are just consistent, like nonsense humor.
Yeah,
the whole
that's
thing,
what-
you know what I mean. Like
when I
farts
was,
and
like,
people
really
falling
young.
over and all that stuff. But it's just like this constant pace of like joke. And yes, there's a plot within it usually at some point in time, but it's always that kind of like.
Yeah, we'll get the plot in later.
Yeah, it's that like keep your attention type pace, and I think TikTok's like increased it, but I think it's more like the humor pace is like a younger way of interacting with humor.
Well, the part of it is like I don't want to hate the player too much because it's the game, right?
Yeah.
Because like the creators are probably pretty funny, but they understand that if they don't do this format, they're losing eyes quick.
Yeah.
They're losing eyes every frame, right? So they're almost forced to create that content, and if they don't, someone else will, right?
Yep.
It's someone else is going to supply that demand. So
I still think the ultra high frequency entertainment is still going to be more of a fad thing and kind of.
I hope you're right.
Like, don't get me wrong, I still think there's lots of space for the social medias and Instagrams and the scrollings and the TikToks and the 30-second videos. But I don't think it's going to pursue much more of the demographic, like that, much more of that entertainment that we totally consume.
How do you mean?
We consume in total. Like, I don't think the pie chart is gonna grow much more in form of like the ultra small, ultra high frequency.
You ever been
Like,
hanging
the
out with someone and
scrolling,
they're
sure.
just like on their phone?
Yeah, well, I have clients all the time, and you'll glance over their phone, and it's just like flashing and buzzing, and this video's changing. And you're like, "Holy shit, dude! My phone does not do that to me. I do not let that happen."
Yeah, but you're not most people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you think that it's lessening, I would highly disagree.
Oh no, I think it's still gonna go more, but I still believe that there's a fadness.
Sure.
to it?
Sure, yeah. It's like the first time you try a drug. It's
Yeah.
like, man, this is the best thing in the world. And
Yeah.
then eventually you'll be like, oh, there's other stuff.
Like newspapers were cutting edge and all the rage one time.
But their job
Yeah.
is to make sure that other stuff is still on your phone, though.
yeah.
How do you mean?
So, like, when you lose interest in the one thing that you've been finding hilarious and fun that's on your phone, the same people that created that are, like, already planning on you being bored of that
Yep.
and working on the next thing,
Yep.
right? Then they're competing for our interests. Every platform is competing for our interests. Instagram is rolling out all kinds of new features all the time now. Like, I'm seeing it, like, when I go to do a new action, they'll, like, prompt me, you can set this thing now. You can do this thing now. Now you can reply to comments and make reels like you can on TikTok. Those are called clapbacks.
Yep.
When you reply to someone's comment with a video, right? TikTok's been doing that forever, but like they're all like dueling. They're trying to keep our interest, and someone will come up with a new idea, and then the other platform will take that idea and they'll come up with another idea, and everybody's like, it's a competing for diminishing marketplace of our time, right? And someone wants to win that. And so as long as someone's trying to win that, we're going to have less and less power than we think.
Yeah.
Because they're doing research on consumers all the time, right? So like we can go, I'm not into all of that, but that's not enough for us to say that because they're studying that response and how to beat that response, right?
Yeah.
So-
Well, this is why I think like it might feel fad-like, but I kind of doubt it. I think it'll probably push further into it. I think it'll probably like because your longer form things like TV will either reformat itself to kind of interact with that on that level, or it will go away. Like,
And I don't want it to because, like, it's probably because we're boomers. Let's be honest. Like, Where like I like the old 30-minute, hour-long
Well,
format.
what do you like? Because there's avenues now for better versions of that.
I don't want to watch TV.
You
That's what I'm
say
saying.
this.
Because like I don't want a 30-minute show where only 20 of it is a show.
No,
know
but
what I
I mean is like I liked when it's like on your day off, you sit down, you got your cheap meal or whatever, and you're watching your hour-long drama that you're invested in. I don't know if you ever did that, but like I had so back in 2009, I think it might have been True Blood. It was Game of Thrones for a minute. Like it was, yeah. It's been Dexter. Like it's you have like a show on the go that you're.
But to be fair, you're describing things that are more like the Netflix model.
Yep.
Because those are all shows that are not interrupted.
We
They're all
grew
like
up.
ads are at
we
the
grew
front
up at
and
the
back.
beginning of this, right?
Yeah.
So like those were like earlier, not Game of Thrones, but
Yeah.
like, yeah, I don't mind the uninterrupted part of it.
Yeah.
I just mean like the format of you sit down and you pay attention for an hour, right?
I think
you get
I think
invested
YouTube,
in the building
I
story.
think YouTube is kind of pushing some of that market share out, but
Agreed.
I don't think TikTok is really messing
fuck
with
no.
that market.
Well,
That being said,
they certainly are.
But
they're
very, very
they're
minimal.
expanding their video length. Like they expanded it 3 minutes, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be the limit. Because at one point it was like 15 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Then they went to 30. Then they went to a minute, which I was for TikTok. That's lots of time. And then they went to 3 minutes, and I was like, there's gonna be no way. And now it's up to 5 minutes. You can toggle up to 5 minutes. And I'm like, YouTube is embracing shorts. TikTok is going longer. What the fuck is going on
yeah,
here?
I'm sure they'll probably have an
They're all
offshoot.
becoming the same thing.
They'll probably have an offshoot of it that'll be like TikTok something, where it's like a separate app that does
Yeah.
longer form ones
That's
too.
absolutely working toward.
Yeah, and then like because again, the thing that works for these companies more than anything is avenues for creators to create, so they can take ad revenue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the more avenues you give to a more diverse array of people that are willing to create for free. That's the thing that I find crazy about this thing.
Yeah.
We've given all the creation power to people for no cost, and they are getting nothing from it other than a number.
Wow.
And then, well, really,
YouTube pays
Okay,
right now.
yeah.
CPM is apparently because I was a little annoyed with our diminishing ad revenue on the channel. Apparently, January has forever been the worst month of the year for all creators on YouTube for CPM or whatever the hell it's called, which is basically like not the amount of ads, but the quality of ads placed
well, it
on
makes
your.
sense, right? Because like people are ramping up to Christmas,
Yep.
trying to put better ads on, and then
So-
January they don't invest in.
There's every chance that our ads aren't like because I thought maybe I rocked the boat too much and they took some ads away or something, but I think it's like the people that invest in you in YouTube in January are like the worst and they pay the least, so you end up getting the least for your ad share because our ads are dropping off big time right now, but the channel views are still pretty high, so it's like what. So I looked into this, and yeah, January is the worst time of the year to be a YouTube creator, and a lot of people take it off.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
good
it's
to know.
weird. It's weird. Like, there's so many corners, right? Like, how the hell would you even know that normally unless you were already into this?
Well, I mean, if you look at it like a retail business, basically,
Yeah,
because like you're gonna have a low January.
yeah.
You just are, because you had a huge December, and then what do? You wait
the
until
big-
people pay off their debts, and then they come back in the spring.
Yeah, the biggest months of the year for YouTube are October to December,
Yeah, it makes sense.
which fits with our numbers.
You got your Black Friday in the States, and then you got your Christmas.
So people are the same no matter what way they're spending their money. No matter where they're spending it in higher volumes certain times a year, right?
Man, I want to rebel against that so bad.
It's
all these
so
things,
weird.
All
You
these things
see
I just want to fight against.
Yeah.
I just
out.
don't want to do
Because
this.
it's not like they're buying things specifically at a store when they're watching YouTube.
Yeah.
It just
Well-
manifests in our behavior.
Yeah.
Well, it's not
It's
even
the energy
that,
to it.
It's not even that the consumer's behavior is directly affecting your ad revenue. It's that the ad revenue or the ad behavior is changing, and with the changing ad behavior, you have a change in income. Like the individual ads are worth 7 cents instead of 3 cents, and therefore you're making money. You're making more, but only because those companies know that consumers' behavior is typically higher in November. So therefore they're putting out premium, higher priced ads to beat out the cheaper ads. So it's like this like two degrees removed proportionate kind of response.
Yeah, you're right.
It's like two what's the word here? But either way, two degrees of separation off from a direct link, but it's still directly proportionate.
Okay, so I'm gonna go straight, like destroy the system here. So, because I like all this stuff, I hate. I don't like particularly the idea that I'm so easily manipulatable. So every time I focus on the fact that I am, I just tend to want to push against it. So my question is, how, if ever, could these things be undone in a like a capacity? Then I also say that understanding that if we don't have a good Christmas, all of society falls apart. I totally get that. You know what I mean? As if nobody buys the iPhone 14, everything is different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything changes and that company goes bankrupt. Like that. So, but we have to be able to shift this into more of an aware type of living.
We need to change our culture before we can change our system.
Psychedelics.
Well, it's okay. So, in saying that,
Psychedelics.
we have to address the psychedelics in the room. Okay, so here's a question though.
them.
Here's a real question, because like I don't think it's a magic pill by any stretch, but I think it's a component that would affect a portion of the society in a
Get the
positive
gears
way.
moving anyway.
Yeah. But like you have to think like somebody that's willing to entertain the idea of a psychedelic is already in a place of higher openness to certain things, right?
That depends.
That depends. Yeah,
Because
I
there's
think
a
I
lot-
know where you're going.
I mean, openness as a characteristic, like when Jordan Peterson talks about that, like there's openness and conscientiousness and art.
But some people's culture, because like openness is more of a personality trait, where some people's culture have really led them that someone can be quite open-minded and quite intentionally moving forward in these aspects of their lives. But if they come from a certain type of Christian background or a certain type of political leaning one way or the other, they might look at mushrooms as, or a psychedelic as illegal drugs. I don't go there.
Whereas you
Right.
get the other extreme of
Or
like
the other extreme where this person who's kind of already comfortable in a junkie house.
Yes, there you go. Yeah.
Takes them with no regard whatsoever. They have no concern over this. It's not because they're open-minded. It's because they've already gone
Their
down.
proximity to this stuff is already there, right?
Their Venn diagram just happens to overlap with it
Because
already.
like what you're saying would make sense if these drugs weren't weaponized one way or the other.
Yeah.
Like they weren't demonized by one side or emboldened by another. Like if in a completely different, if they were just existing as a potential and we knew of them but they had no context, then openness is all that matters,
Yeah.
right? Like, but because we've had them go, this crowd likes them a lot, this crowd demonizes them, then it becomes a different thing. So like maybe someone's super open, but they're not allowed to try that.
That's right.
Right? Mentally,
Precisely.
they're not allowed to try that.
I think you're more seeing it as openness in action rather than openness in characteristic. Because like the same person that's really rigid in their belief structure has a belief structure, which means that they were open to the idea of it in the first place.
Yep.
So I just mean that like the potential of that type of a person, rather than someone who's say narcissistic and thinks that they have it all together and they know it. You know what I mean? Like, because if you're looking to if you're immediately going to a teaching structure to inform your action, that means you have openness. Right?
Yes.
You're seeking out information. It might be from a very rigid source, and most sources are very rigid in terms of how they explain their information, because you don't want people to be thinking for themselves if you want them to adopt what you think. But you're still searching for some sort of input, which I would consider to be open, even if it is expressed rigidly. So I would be more worried about the, say, narcissists within our society that believe that they are God, would never interact with these types of things. And I'm just wondering what percentage do you think will go and entertain these types of things? Because it's, like we saw it with weed, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of people that were just like scared. And then now that we have Apple stores that sell weed here, they,
Nothing has changed.
To me,
No,
you're
lots of
selling.
things have
There are
changed.
weed stores now, but
my
otherwise,
mom's talking about growing weed.
To me, you're selling
She
a
is the
completely different
example
product.
of that Christian rigidity.
Yeah, but I mean nothing. Like it's it's changed only on the micro level in each individual's life.
I didn't think
In
it was going to change
in the big
anything other
picture,
than just
nothing has changed.
No, certainly not. Other than our tax revenue has gone up.
Yeah.
Which we're not seeing anywhere.
So I think
find
like
adorable.
I'm more likely to go the mushroom road than I am the pot road.
Yeah.
Because I see a benefit possibly from mushrooms. I
Yeah, I
don't
do
really
too.
see, for me, not much benefit.
The only thing I've really liked about weed in general, because I don't particularly like that head high thing, is CBD.
Yeah.
CBD has been a really handy little thing to have.
Oh,
in
I'm
my
not
life.
saying it's not helpful to people or that it should be banned like it was kind of thing. But for me, I see more of a benefit to mushrooms than pot, personally.
I would
so
agree.
like I would think of mushrooms as like, if I take this, I will have a wild time and I will think about things in a different way again.
Yes.
In a way that I won't generally think about things unless I am shipwrecked. So seriously, like it put me in the frame of like where I would be after a horrible incident in my life,
Yeah.
but not in a bad way, but
Yeah.
like, you know, that openness that you have
Contemplative.
where you're like, yeah, where you can pull apart your life and make some so I've done that before, but to get to that state, it
But you
generally
still
takes,
spent a shitload on Christmas. Frankly, even more.
yeah, I love Christmas,
I know you do.
so
And that's okay.
you want to take that from me.
I don't. To be honest,
Hey, you got a nice new cardigan for Christmas.
I did. I lucked out.
Just saying.
No, my hope would be that because like you like what Christmas gives
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
by doing it the way that you like it. Right?
Yeah.
Being able to observe something that you like and fully enjoy it is not. A
I know
negative.
I know it's not good necessarily.
No. It can be. So it's like okay, if you have the ability. So if you're getting just drug along.
Yeah.
And you go into this avenue and you're just handcuffed to it and you don't actually like it, that would be my issue, right? The forcing of something that is not something that you engage with. Whereas if you can observe it and go, I really enjoy this. This gives me joy. I love giving people gifts. This is a good part of my life that I want to embrace to its fullest. Great.
Yeah,
Fucking giver.
See, I like it as the old classic kind of campy, you know, you get your family your gifts and you have the dinner and like you drink the eggnog, not because you like the eggnog, but because you drink the goddamn eggnog.
God, I
right?
like the eggnog, but I like
like
the
the
I like the classic.
Oh,
one.
that man.
The whiskey
so we
eggnog.
bought
Well,
a
obviously.
carton of classic eggnog.
Yeah.
And
It's like drinking butter.
it's like cake mix or something.
It's so crazy.
We had to pawn it off on Ivan because
it's so crazy.
we kind of, this is gonna sound completely terrible, but like I took it and I was like, oof, that's a little too thick for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't say that out loud. I was like, oh, Ivan, you have to try this classic eggnog. It's so good. And he comes over and he starts drinking it. He's like, oh yeah, it is so good. Because it's the thing where like,
just butter and sugar, bro.
if your kid hears you hate on something,
Yeah,
all of a
yeah.
sudden they
Never
don't
like it.
Yeah, they'll never like it.
So I'm always very quiet about like whether I dislike it or not, right?
Smart.
I'll remember there's this time I made KD and I added like cheese to it or something, and Sarah absolutely hated it. So she took a bite. She's like, "Oh, this is terrible." And then Ivan took a bite, and he's, "Oh, this is terrible." And I was thinking, if it was just he and I, he would have ate the whole goddamn thing. He probably would have asked for seconds.
Yeah, he probably loved it.
So yeah, you just have to be careful with that stuff. But yeah, no, the classic eggnog is strong, like strong stuff. But I like the
Of course
whole
it's strong
thing.
with that one.
I don't think we have enough times like Christmas in a way, not the money part of it, but like just where we do silly nonsense that brings us all together and everybody can kind of understand it. And it's how many times it's been like, well, you know, it is Christmas time.
I'm not for undue effort just for tradition, but tradition has a place and a home.
Well, we don't
right?
have any tradition anymore. It seems like.
Oh, we have lots of traditions still, and it's like it's really funny. Just after Christmas, my buddy called me, and he's out east this year.
Guess maybe I don't have much tradition.
We're doing this right
no.
now.
Fair.
Yeah, and well, the holidays, you have a ton of tradition. You're like, oh, I like
Yeah.
to buy these kind of gifts. I like to go here at this time of day. I like
Yeah,
to
there's
have
a
this
certain
kind of.
type of Christmas presents too, right? Like,
Well, yeah. You were particularly steeped in tradition. You have certain types of clothing you wear at certain
Yeah.
times of year.
Yeah.
Do you get a Christmas tree?
Oh yeah, for
That's
sure.
a major inconvenient tradition.
We have a
That's
a black and
wild-
red Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Dude, setting one up.
Yeah, I know. Whenever
hate
Christmas
it
is
so
over,
much.
it's like, holy shit, who brought this tree in?
Yeah. We have now dedicated rooms in our houses to store Christmas shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sarah's
Whole
mom has
areas
a
of
giant
living.
room,
Yeah.
the Christmas room.
Yeah. And like
Yeah, it's insane. It's
like
absolutely nuts.
if you were a person from Japan and you came over here and you saw that people were using space that was the size of their apartments to store their Christmas shit,
Yeah.
they would lose their
In a
minds.
But we don't
Heated
have
house.
that
Yeah,
much.
weird,
but-
right?
Yeah. This house has more amenities than 20% of the global population does.
Yeah, it's all preposterous under the lens. I understand.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So anyway, what I'm saying is we have a ton of tradition here. I was talking to my buddy the day after Christmas, and he said that he spent the Christmas Eve with his roommates, and they had this whole like setup. It took them hours of setup to prepare the food correctly. They had to wear formal dress to the supper. They had all these traditions they had to follow along to. Everyone seemed kind of miserable. It was just brutal. But then he went to his girlfriend's family's place for supper and like met her parents and shit on Christmas Day and had a blast. They were observing the same holiday, observing many of the same traditions, but sticking to it less rigidly, and he had a blast. They got a little bit drunk, they cooked a turkey, they messed around in the kitchen, they played some card games, they stayed up till 3 a.m, shooting the shit. Very similar traditions, different application. So I think there's a time and a place and a way of executing a tradition well and a way of executing a tradition in a way that's actually not bringing added value to your life.
Well, there's definitely different people do it differently. My house it's not that structured. We have a lot of like goofy fun. We watch old Christmas cartoons and junk like that. And
Yeah.
We get up early and open presents and all that.
Of
But,
course.
Like, my family's Christmas has always been a little bit like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, where everybody kind of hates each other. You know, it's very like, well, why do we have to do this? But it's Christmas. You
Well,
know?
it's a justification for everybody being mildly uncomfortable for a little while.
For the longest time, whenever my brothers and I would get together at my mom's house, it would be like, haha, okay, see you at Easter. Right? Like, we just do this for mom.
Yeah.
But we're doing it now. We're doing dinners every second Sunday. And it's actually become not so bad. Like, me and Dave have talked a lot because of it, right? And me and him really didn't talk at all for years. We would just talk in passing. But, like, now it's like, oh, there was actually something for us to talk about.
Yeah.
We just never really knew that. There's actually quite a few things for us to talk about.
There's lots of little topics that probably overlap, but it takes some time and familiarity to come across those things
Well, I
and
ended
know
up
where
buying
your
him a
interests
Christmas
overlap.
gift this year.
Cool.
Like, and it was something that I actually wanted to get him. It wasn't out of like, oh, I have to get Dave something.
Yeah.
I had to get Nathan something though, because Sarah's like, "Are you kicking everyone something except Nathan?" I was like, "The hell I can't."
Just give him some mistletoe.
Nathan didn't get anything for anyone, and he didn't even thank me for the gift I got him. So I was like, "Well, fuck this guy." I wasn't surprised by that either. I got him a gift card to Starbucks. It was the most impersonal thing ever. But I don't like. You can't get him anything because he could get it for himself.
But see, when a guy like you that already spends $30,000 on Christmas, spending $12 on a Starbucks gift card seems like
20.
it's a very reasonable thing, you know?
Well, considering he didn't get anything for anyone,
Yeah.
you know, and then when he was opening his gifts, he wasn't happy with anything he got. He went on a rant about my mom's sister, our aunt.
Go on.
Sorry.
I just have an excellent question for you.
She
Go
got
ahead.
everyone these $10 Walmart gift cards and a nephew pendant because our aunt is alone. Her mother and father are passed away now, and she just lives alone in Nova Scotia, and she doesn't know anyone, but she loves us. You know that. I don't know
Did
if
she
you have
fly
any of
out
those.
for this?
No, but she sent these gifts out. She sent us all the same thing. It was a my nephew pendant, and it had like a little poem on it, and a $10 Walmart gift card. And Nathan was just went on a rant about how awful a person she is, and how he's seen this thing she said on Facebook, and he overheard this conversation with our mother, and we don't know how bad she. And I was like, just fucking say thank you and move on.
Just do the platitude, man.
Jeez, yeah. Wow.
It was horrible. It was the defining moment of the morning. Was like, wow, he really is a bastard. But he always does stuff like that.
Okay, so my question to you is,
Sure.
what happens if that guy starts microdosing?
I don't
Wow.
Because like I've
He
told
needs
you
to
about him.
microdose and read a good book.
He's incredibly
Well,
intelligent.
Like, he needs more than a microdose.
He's incredibly
Yeah.
intelligent and very unemotionally unaware. So
That's what I'm saying.
he was
What happens?
I don't think he understood how silly that whole thing was.
Of course not.
Like he was informing us, like we needed to know this. I'm like,
Just so you're all aware, she's a piece of shit.
it's like,
Whoa.
okay, thank you, Nathan. Thank you. Very
Thank you for
good.
coming.
Thank you. That's great. Thank
And
you.
our next guest is.
You could see everyone's skin was sort of crawling.
Yeah.
It looked like Dave wanted to knock him out.
So what happens if you? So okay, we'll go back to the microdosing thing because I do want you to pick that apart.
Yeah.
But
what happens if he?
what happens if you
microdoses?
address it?
Well, we have.
But
Yeah,
like
we
if you just simply say like, hey, you understand that what you're doing right now is not
Yeah.
kosher behavior, and
I
everyone
can
here is
tell from
uncomfortable.
here that this guy's level of disassociation
Yeah.
or cognitive dissonance, is so high that if you try to say,
He gets
hey,
angrier.
man, I've kind of seen this trend, he will immediately go into defensive mode in the
No,
kind of way where
not like, hey, bro. Hey, I'm trying to make you feel the way that I feel. What I'm saying is, analytically, give him a review of his behavior and say, "This is
He heard me. I was
That's
telling
what
you,
I'm
he
saying,
overheard
Matt.
me just dissecting his terrible behavior from the other room
Yeah,
when
yeah,
I was
yeah.
telling someone else about him.
Yeah.
And then it hit him hard.
Well, but then okay, hit him hard, but didn't inspire change, right?
For a minute, it might have. If I can recall, I think he was a little better for a little while, but then it gets farther away from the point, and it's like that natural tendency again, right?
Right.
It doesn't stick. It's not like you
No,
fundamentally changed him. You just put a kink in his armor for a minute.
And
Gotcha.
I feel like if you were to bring it up with him, he'd probably be defensive.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he would just write everything off. Instead of looking back and trying to see it from your perspective on the broader view, I feel like he's the kind of guy that would specifically defend individual actions, like any actions that you were silly enough to bring up as examples. He would dwell on those and explain his actions so clearly is the wrong word, but he'd explain his actions away that he's the good guy and that all of his anger is justified.
Or
that
just
he
the
should have
better
done
guy.
more. Yeah, exactly.
So, like, here's an example of we were all like talking about our jobs at dinner a couple months ago, and he brought up what he made as like a weapon, and I had told him, well, I make about that. So he then this last time we seen him, suddenly he makes $1,000 more a month. So,
good enough.
like, I guess he got one hell of a raise because he just brought that number up again, but it's $1,000 more. It's like you just have to pretend now that you're making more than everyone because he can't have it acknowledged that he's not the best.
So what happens if he microdoses?
I don't know.
What happens if he has an ego death and realizes that he is nothing?
He needs to microdose or trip and have like a therapy or a good book or something,
Yeah,
right?
be pointed in the right direction because
Yeah.
you could use it and then get like the wrong book.
Well, I guess if we're going to use if we're going to
Have you ever read Dorian Gray?
no.
Well, there's a book that he reads that like fucks up his mind.
Yeah, exactly.
He'll
like-
get a hold of that thing and he'll just be
Yeah,
gone.
precisely.
He microdoses and reads Anarchist Cookbook, and all of a sudden we're like,
Oh, be worried for
this is
real.
not good.
Because if you have pathways established in your mind, this is how you normally think about a topic. This is how you normally respond to situations. The use of psychedelics is here to establish new pathways, establish new norms, and access new potentials. Right? If you don't intentionally put yourself in a state where you're looking for new paths, you're just going to take those old paths again.
Agreed.
And you're going to be exactly where you started, but feel more smug about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We don't need that.
And that's not always useful. I have lots of trips where I find myself going, yeah, I didn't learn much. I just had a time. I'll try to see things through a good lens for the next couple of days to have the most positive effect from it I can. Next time, maybe I should meditate a little bit while I'm still high. You know, there's different. You got to put the work in to get the benefits.
I would say yes to a point. Like, one of the things that is inescapable is when you are microdosing, your synapses are open. So the ability to
I think
see
he would hate
other...
it. I think he's a control freak, to be quite honest.
That's
I
very
think.
interesting.
He may notice more.
So that would
what
be
you're
someone
saying.
that would probably, if you are a control freak, you'd probably more leaning to never doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's just like, if it challenges your semblance of reality, then you would never want to challenge it. Therefore, you would never engage with it. I see that with a lot of people that are like really holding, like they do this. If you ever talk to them about the idea of psychedelics, it's like an impossibility, like an absolute impossibility. It doesn't matter what you put in front of them. It's just like the idea of it. You can see that it could push a button for them that they would never be able to unpush. And therefore, they'll never engage with it.
There's some linchpin holding their whole
Yeah.
identity together,
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
thing.
it's the fact that they think that they matter.
So next time my buddy Aaron's in town, we got to get him on the podcast because he feels so similar. Like he sees psychedelics so similarly to you. Like him and I see drugs quite differently nowadays, but he sees them so similar to you in the like, yeah, these are medicine. I need to like spread the word. Like
I don't necessarily think they're medicine.
He's a bit but you're still a bit gospelizing on the subject as he is. So I think you guys in the same room would be pretty fantastic, because I've heard, like, we go to a lot of festivals, and this guy's like, he has some characteristics of his personality where he's just not understanding the implications of what he's saying. That's just
Give me
how
an
he comes
example.
across sometimes. Well, for example, when it'll be 2 a.m. at some festival, and he's like trying to convince some random person to do the mushrooms, and the person's like, "No, I really just like I'm not in the right place right now, or I'm not planning on it, or I haven't read enough about it or thought about it." It's like, no, like trust me, you gotta do this. And like, dude,
Hey, stranger.
you can't do that. Like, this is a stranger who is refusing the drugs. Don't keep trying to convince them. Like, I know it's
Pushers give it a bad name.
but really, he's just doing his best to like, no, I found a really magical thing, and I want to share it with you. I want you to understand how great and how good
Just
this
imagine
is.
me now, like at a tattoo convention. No, you got to cover up your tattoo.
You got to get a full body blackout suit and then tattoo over it again, man.
And just I'm really not into it. No. Let me
dude,
do it
you
for
gotta,
you.
see?
Come on, get over here.
Look at how great it is. You need that for you.
Look what it did for me.
Yeah. So
Anytime.
So you and him definitely come from different angles, but I feel there is a thread of parallel there where you're both like, I found this magical thing and I need everyone else to know about it. So I want you in the same room. That's all.
I like the idea of talking about what it is. I don't like the idea of telling anybody to do it.
He's more comfortable
You
with
want
that
to make them
concept.
aware of it, and then they'll come do it on their own.
Well, okay, so the language around it, I stumbled onto it through just a TEDx video.
Yeah.
Like the whole notion of it. I had heard the concept of it before, and I thought it was stupid. And then I watched a TED talk about it where they were explaining what's happening with your brain. And I looked at it and I went, oh shit, I can't ignore that. That's very,
because
very
you're.
cool.
I've said this before, but you're an intelligent human being, and you're.
Thank you.
It's not even necessarily a compliment, though. It's
Sweet.
just. It's like.
Then how dare you?
Like some people just can't take in new information that easily, right?
Yeah, for
like
sure.
They'd watch that and go, that's bullshit.
But it was an avenue that spoke my language.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And most sciencey things come out in avenues that speak my language. They're very late to the game to people that don't give a shit about science. You know what I mean? And then you're dealing in the world that everybody loves, which is personal anecdote. So that's why I am very open about what it is, what it has done for me, and pointed me, whatever. Just so like I'm speaking a language that somebody else likes. If they're wired like me, I'm just gonna say, hey, you should just find it. There's tons of resource. You can look at any different topic. There's lots of science out there. It's really cool, and that person will do fine hunting it down on their own. But the person that's going to look at that and go like, I just tuned out. I'm on TikTok right now.
Like more of an emotional kind of
Yeah,
approach.
yeah.
right?
They need a story to it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, I think that's where those like TV evangelists work so
Yeah, of
great,
course.
because it's not factual. It's just, here's this guy. He's just over the top, boisterous, just charismatic, just maybe singing and dancing. It's like, holy shit! If I do this, I'll be like this
I'll be
guy.
that guy. I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what people buy most often.
Yeah,
They
well,
don't buy the
that's
dry
marketing,
run,
right? Yeah.
You bought the dry.
Yeah.
Most
I
people.
like the dry.
Yeah,
most
same.
people like that, like that big character. Like look
Yeah.
at Donald Trump. Well, I don't want to talk about that, but like
Like if you're selling me your personality, you can get fucked. I'm looking for something that's going to work for me and works in the light of day before my coffee on blank white paper.
Yeah.
Like if I can write it down there and it still like makes sense and works for me, like we're good here. If it only works in the boisterous context of someone shoveling it with a big snow shovel right in my mouth hole
And a bright
like,
white
whoa,
suit and-
Yeah, nope, doesn't work for me.
Like that's the
Too
type
far.
of con that I don't like. You know what I mean? Like
That's the type of con that just annoys me from the beginning. So I'm like,
oh really?
stay away
See,
from me.
I wouldn't necessarily say I buy into it, but I love the whole production. Like I love seeing a huckster at work, like where it's like this guy knows what he's selling is snake oil.
I mean, I
and
hate
he's
that.
like it's fucking drenched. He's drenched in it and living it and loving it. And it's like, holy crap, this guy's on. Like it's like watching really good stand up to some degree, where it's like they're working the room. Like there's a high degree of like emotional intelligence
Yeah,
required for something like that.
I just lived in that for so long that I can't anymore.
I mean, it's not right.
Well, who knows?
But-
if it helps people, maybe it is.
Well,
right.
this is it, right? Like if you believe it enough, like
Yeah.
that belief in something can make it real almost.
Sure.
But at what point do we need to start focusing on how to convince people to do better research? At what point?
Well, there's a lot of people you don't want doing any research. There's a
that's what I'm
shitload of
saying.
those.
At what point are we
Well-
realizing that people are filling their mind with a bunch of fluffy TikTok
Doing
style
research
bullshit
is harder and
instead
harder
of
now.
actually learning something?
It's like
Well,
custom Wikipedias are coming, right? Where it's like if you and I would Google the same thing, we'll get a different answer.
yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Well,
wait,
that's
you say
custom Wikipedias have been
Wikipedia?
working on that for a while. I don't know when that's ever going to happen, but like Google search results are different.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. You
So,
ask
like-
the same question phrased differently, it gives you two different answers.
So, like Kevin said, there's a lot of people you really don't want doing research because the way their nose is pointing them already, if they do any more research,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
only going further that way.
if your question gives an intention, you get that answer.
Yes.
Whereas if your question is what it is,
Yeah.
usually you'll find a non-biased answer. as
Because
well.
it'll be like you'll type in, so why is weed bad for
yeah,
you?
exactly. Here's all the reasons that weed is bad for you.
Right. Versus is weed bad for you? Even that is a different result,
Interesting.
right?
Yeah,
But
and
then
is
you're-
weed good for you?
But then you start
You know,
getting
what,
more
what,
results.
what question are you really asking?
Because your phone
You're just
is
wanting
taking
to.
your phone is taking cues. Then like, oh, this person doesn't like weed, so we're going to show them
But
more of that.
I don't think it is even taking that. I think there are articles that are talking about the bad sides of weed, articles
Of
that are
course.
talking about the good sides of weed,
They're
and
out- they're
articles
both
that,
out
and
there.
articles that are more in the middle comparing some of the pros and cons. So if you ask those questions, the correct answer is one of those articles that
How
is-
long are they
that
going to
is-
look before they're happy with their answer?
Well, the real problem is with almost anything, it's situationally dependent.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the hard things about giving answers to anything. Like there is no real answer because everybody's situation is different. You can't account for every different little thing that's going to happen within someone's life because like weed for like you and I smoking the same type of weed has a different reaction.
Yeah.
So if
dramatically
I were to
so.
go, oh, that therefore my situation informs me that this particular thing is negative or positive, and yours provides the opposite because of our proclivities or whatever, the way that it works within us. So it's like the real honest answer is that it's a real gray answer and people really don't like that shit. They want it to be on or off. Is this good or bad? And the problem is it's always dependent on the other variables. Always.
But
No
they're going
matter
to
what.
find the answer they like and move on.
But
Yeah.
I guess all I'm saying at the end of the day is still that I hope our culture changes in a direction where people are encouraged instead of pushing further and further into whatever snake oil preacher of the day or politician of the day or concept of the day is taking up all of their time and all of their better judgment, and they could focus on finding more unbiased views on things that are actually happening or actually important. That's all.
Well, but that is also subject to definition.
Of
because
course.
actually important, that's all just dependent as to who you
And then
who you
Yeah, but
are
what-
and
but
how
what
you
if
view
you-
the world.
You're
But what-
always going to need, so even if you get a guy who can, or even if you get the dry information route where it's this is the right answer, you're always going to need it in the hands of a huckster guy like I was describing.
To push it.
You're going to need that guy
You need the pusher man.
because you're never going to have 100% intellectuals. You're always going to have some blend of intellectuals versus emotional thinking people, where those people are going to need someone with that flair to give them that information.
I hope our culture changes what it values. Is what I'm saying. I hope the value ends up being on doing good research, so that the winning concepts of the day aren't the ones that are best advertised.
It depends what you mean by winning concepts. Like
The winning concepts are the ones that become most prevalent and predominant within our culture.
But that's popularity, right? That's not science. So
Yes,
like,
but what I'm hoping is the more we go toward the dry, the less we go toward the huckster, the more the more chance we have of the prevalent attitude and opinion being closer to the truth.
I just don't think most people care about whether what they think is right. They just want it to work for them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and they might think it's right. Like, they might say they think it's right, but like, most people just want something that works, right? They just want to be happy at the end of it. They don't really care often what expense it comes at to anyone else. So like, you need to proof it for them. Like, the huckster needs to be giving them the good information for the right reason. But they still need that huckster.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to care about it without the brand, without the identity around it, right?
But for this cultural shift, I don't think we need 100% participation.
I would agree.
Like, I'm saying if an additional 20% of the population who have those capacities and resources would decide that this is a priority and decided to move away from the huckster, move towards multiple bias.
Does it change for you if he's preaching what you want him to be preaching?
No, not at all.
No?
No, not in the least.
Well, no, we all do, yeah, because we like to be confirmed.
Because
I mean,
like,
if there's someone that's going to give you something,
I'm not talking about me personally. I'm hoping I'm talking about
within
our
the
culture.
world, yeah.
I'm hoping our culture moves forward so that because the hucksters are now monetized. Hucksters are now monetized more than ever. So I think the more we can get a population that moves away from the huckster and more toward, I do a bunch of, when I look up something on the internet, when I do some research and read on a subject, I read articles of various biases. And turns out that the ones on this side are often misspelled and shitty, and the ones on this side have links to academic papers. Turns out that these ones in the middle actually compare both sides well, so now I read some that walked in the line. And the more you get a culture of people moving toward that, the more likely that the less correct hucksters will end up with a smaller foothold, and the correct hucksters get a better foothold, and that the common predominant view on a topic is closer to the truth.
I think that the reason why you have those people, though, is because not everybody learns the same way.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, if you read a paper, maybe you can learn something from it. Mm-hmm. But say there's a guy named Ronnie down the road who reads the paper and he can't take in that information. Like, even if he can technically read it, he's not comprehending it. Mm-hmm. It needs to be almost like told to him. That's why you have those people, right? Or they come in and they make it easy for people to understand. Mm-hmm. And you could say that it was that this Ronnie down the road is being lazy, intellectually lazy. Maybe that's the limit of his capacities, right? Maybe we shouldn't assume that he can do the same thing that the next guy could do. And so then you need to find other ways to make that information make sense to him. And that's where these guys, a lot of times, the hucksters are predatory, right? They come in and they're working that lower common denominator.
That's right.
And they know that they're dealing with low-hanging fruit, and they can get them to believe whatever they want, right? So what you'd want is to have your huckster be more ethical than in that case.
an ethical huckster, for sure.
Right, no, not predatory.
It's the same assumption. Like I would argue that government is an ethical huckster in its essence.
Yeah.
So the idea is that they're the figurehead that we're putting in place, assumedly that they're supposed to be ethically sound, and they're supposed to take in all of those sciencey things and create policies for the people that can't understand all the sciencey things. That's the reason you have an FDA. That's the reason you have all these things to put it into place.
I agree with that for sure.
The real problem is like when you're dealing with unethical people.
Yeah.
It makes it impossible.
Well,
because the theory of it is sound, right? The theory of it's great. The theory of it means that government's awesome.
Because I'll put it this way. I sit here tattooing people, and I have a diverse enough group of friends where in the same day, I can have two different people walk up to me and both tell me completely contradicting facts. They're completely convinced, and they've both gone to the internet and watched a bunch of things from one person, from two different sources, and become completely convinced in two completely different, baseless, completely opposed things. And maybe one's correct. I don't even give a fuck which guy is correct. It's just insane that both went to the internet and both got directly lied to and believed it 100%.
No, what they got is what they wanted.
Yep. And you always will.
Yeah, because that's the problem when we have this type of, it's fueling whatever you've got,
but
right?
What if they also wanted? Yeah, you're right. They didn't get what they wanted. They wanted to believe this way.
Well, how
or
many
that way.
people want to be
Absolutely.
wrong?
Yeah, people hate being wrong.
Yeah.
I'm okay with being wrong now and then, but I don't want to be wrong.
Oh no, I don't want to be wrong. I'm trying to build more into my life. Like I'm trying to build more of a be wrong attitude, because that way I listen better.
Yeah,
right?
I understand, but like when people go searching for the answer to something, they're not trying to be wrong.
not usually,
So
no.
when they find something that contradicts them, they're more likely going to double back, change the way they ask the question, and then find an answer that makes them more right.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Which is like,
And
you should
we're all
just go,
guilty of that at
oh, I
times.
guess I'm wrong. But instead they'll go, no, let me change this. I'm
Yeah.
going to be right, goddammit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they find the answer, and then that's what they go forward with, right? Because people don't want to be wrong.
Which is why I want to get as far away from the huckster concept as possible, because the huckster concept makes it too easy to just find super compelling, super convincing misinformation.
I mean, yeah, the problem is like right now we have a lot of everything. And so
Yeah.
everything just continually goes up. So since you have access to things that we haven't had
But
access
I'm saying
to
that
before,
even if the current media system stays the same, if our culture slowly works toward valuing better research, then if the more
we'll work towards the result.
the larger
So if
percentage
if better
of the
research gets a better result, then absolutely we will.
not better
But
research, like.
we are a results driven thing, right? Like
but it's
we're
not-
an accruing.
But this is
resources type
a
of
value
being.
driven concept that would lead to better results naturally in the long run, and only incrementally, only proportionately to the number of people that are now valuing better research and learning how to do better research, and then actually following through on that.
My thing is like, so I would argue that research is for researchers, and then the interpretation and presentation afterwards would be what you're kind of talking about, because like you're not in the field. We're not talking about people that are in the field actually doing research. Anything that you're talking about is observing others' work.
Absolutely, yes.
So even the idea that calling it research, it's observation. Like hopefully it's been done right in its origin, but we're not talking about 20% of the population needs to get into science.
no, absolutely
Like,
not.
That's refined for a far smaller
I
segment
think
of the
you've
population.
choked up on your definition of research a little too far at this stage.
What I'm saying is, in terms of where you're putting yourself in the chain, you could argue that it is research. In terms of what you're doing, you're trying to find information and like create a thesis and all that shit.
Yeah.
But what you're actually doing is you're observing others' work. And you're creating your own theory out of the observation. And
Absolutely.
the difficulty is when you're dealing with observation, you can observe whatever you want. And it's really hard to get. Like,
Yeah.
I think getting people better at understanding what you're talking about
Yeah.
totally makes sense.
Of course.
Because
Or
it's
just
like,
valuing it more, putting a little
Well,
more thought into who they're listening to.
But again, what comes with, I would argue, what feeling are they going for? Because that's how most people are ruled.
Yes.
They're going for a feeling. So if the feeling that they're going for is like the best route, you know what I mean? Like, I'm open and therefore I want the best information and I want the best.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, like optimal result. Okay, that's one way of going. But most people, I would argue, are ruled by a little bit more baser emotions and things
Yeah.
that would make them want to feel safe. They would want to make them feel secure. And those things are a little bit more difficult when you're dealing with this type of thing, because there's a lot of really scary shit out there that will make people feel very insecure.
So what if the predominant opinion, attitude, and value that came from this cultural shift was one of, if I'm wrong, I want to know.
Oh, I would love it.
Right? Because that's kind of the attitude I'm trying to build in myself currently.
But
is,
that's really
hey,
close to I want to be right.
It
That's
is
really fucking
but
close.
but we're already all operating on I want to be
I
right.
know.
So what if we could change that mindset a little bit to if I'm wrong, I want to know,
Oh, it'd
and
be the
that
best.
and that will push us to research the opposite side, and then hopefully come to a more balanced view of things, or find actual documentation, actual research on the subject.
It would be the best.
With the
Yeah.
amount
It's just such a
So-
fucking tight rope to walk.
So there, I think I've finally explained where I'm going with this. I would like a cultural shift toward the if I'm wrong, I want to know.
Yeah, I love
well,
it.
Yeah.
with the amount of stuff that we've been wrong about as a
Oh my
species,
God,
you
everything.
think that we
Yes,
would
it's
already be
unreal.
there.
It's
Because
unreal.
almost everything we think today is probably wrong.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We all wear shoes. That's probably pretty stupid.
Yeah.
But-
like,
Well, no, we have concrete floors. We have to wear shoes now.
I know. Because we
Right?
make, like, again,
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah, we
it's wild shit, dude.
We fucked up the ground,
Yeah.
and now we have to wear this shit on our
yeah.
feet.
And then
Welcome-
that fucked
yeah.
us up, and we all have back pain that nobody
Yep.
can fucking figure
yeah,
out. I don't know.
our whole lives are wrong, and
Yeah.
they always have been.
Legit. And it's like you're just kind of constantly putting Band-Aids from the foundational
We're
thing that we
finding
fucked up before.
new ways to be wrong every day.
Every day.
We're gonna bring in the snakes to eat the toads, and the cats to eat the snakes, and this bird
Yeah,
to
exactly,
eat the cats.
exactly.
And now the bird is gonna eat the babies of humans.
Yeah.
Shit.
Whoopsies. We're so
What do we
close.
do?
Can we go back to the...
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's really hard because it's just like... It's impossible. You're winning an impossible war. But
Yeah.
I like the idea that we can move towards it.
Yeah.